for Success Express, your business, career, and financial radio magazine. Hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Well, today on Big Blend Radio Success Express show, San Diego employment attorney Ward Heinrichs is back to outline California employment laws regarding paid sick leave and vacation time. It's especially good timing with spring and summer vacation planning upon us, and who knows what your employer may owe you, or you never know. Or are you using your sick time? It's actually pretty confusing, so I'm really glad Ward's joining us because I don't know if I'd ever be able to count how all of this works without him here. Ward is a regular Big Blend Radio guest and contributor, and also he writes articles for our Big Blend Radio and TV magazine, so you can see him in our expert panel if you go to blendradioandtv.com with links to his articles and past interviews. And he's also writing for our Parks and Travel magazine because he covers a lot of in regards to hospitality and things like vacation time and sick leave and all that good stuff. So his article covering that is going to be featured in the April-May issue of Parks and Travel magazine, and you can see it right now if you go to nationalparktraveling.com. Just type in Ward and you'll find his articles. But the best thing is to go to Ward's website. It is bestemploymentattorneysandiego.com. You can follow him on Twitter as well and Facebook and read his blog. Hey, Ward, how's it going?
It's going very well. I've been super busy lately. I'm going to trial, so and the weather's breaking. So we've had a lot of rain recently, or a fair amount of rain in San Diego, and we're getting a little break right now, but we're going to get some more later. And we never complain about rain here because you got to have it, and we don't have enough.
Yeah, I saw that your mountains got a bunch of snow too. That's cool.
That's way cool.
We like
That's
mountains
very
snow.
cool. But you know what? All the guys who know about that were saying that, it's 7 feet, but we're way below the snowpack average that we really need. But, every little bit counts, and maybe we'll get some more.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, out here we got snow in our mountains, and it got really cold. Just when we thought summer was early, then all of a sudden it said, no, we're going to send you a freeze just to see what you think, But, and so a lot of people are getting sick and getting the sniffles. So I'm really glad you wrote this article. I know. Hey, that's pretty good. But, like, sick leave, vacation laws, leave laws, trying to add this up of what's accruing and what is sick leave and because sometimes it seems like sick leave and vacation time, they start to merge at some point.
Yeah, they can, and it really depends on how the employer runs it, at least in California. Now, every state has different rules about sick leave and vacation time. Federal law really doesn't govern that much in those areas, unless, of course, they have some of those laws that might apply to a contractor or something like that, but generally they don't. So each state has slightly different rules and maybe tremendously different rules. Many states have no sick leave, paid sick leave we're talking about. Have no paid sick leave law. California started it in 2015, and we were, one of the first ones to do it. And, the idea was, hey, if you go to work sick, then you're getting everyone sick. Why don't we let people stay home and they don't feel like they have to come to work? So your first question was, and I sort of got off track, was they sometimes merge, and they do in California depending on how you run your policies. If you keep them separate and have a sick leave policy and a vacation policy, let me start before that. You don't have to give vacation in California. So not all employers have it. Many employers don't.
That's mean.
I know. That's rude. That's rude.
Well, many small employers don't do it. I mean, there's tons of restaurants out there. Well, that doesn't mean they don't give people time off. They just don't pay them for it.
Oh.
So we're talking about paid vacation. People can get time off, but there's many small employers who don't give paid time off for vacation. And so, but if an employer does give paid vacation, and of course they're required to give sick leave now, almost all employers, very few are exempt from that law. Then if you have the two policies separate, then they really don't, what I call, meld together. But if you have like a PTO policy, paid time off policy, and you say you can use it for anything, sick, vacation, whatever you want, well, then they do meld together. And that means they become a wage. Vacation is considered a wage. And that it's different from other wages in that it's not paid immediately. There's delayed payment for whenever you actually take your vacation, but it's still considered a wage, at least in California. So PTO is considered the same thing, and that means if you allow them to use sick leave as part of your PTO program, then that becomes a wage too. California's been very clear that sick leave by itself is not a wage. It's just a benefit, so you don't have to pay it out at the end of someone's employment the way you do vacation or PTO. Now, did everyone follow that?
I know. I'm like, wait a minute. We should have been doing this at cocktail hours. Seriously. My God. I'm glad I'm not in that department.
So when you say keep them separate, does that mean like when you hire somebody, you have a written contract and it's written out separate? I'm not.
Yes.
Okay.
Both these policies need to be in writing.
Okay.
Your sick leave needs to, declare how you're going to run it, and you have different options. Same with your vacation. If you elect to do vacation as an employer, then you need to put that in writing. Now, here's where if you do that, then the sick leave is not a wage, and you don't have to pay it out as cash ever. Vacation is a wage, and it has to be paid out at some time in the future, whether that's for a true vacation, whether that's for personal days off, whether that's for the time when someone either quits or is terminated. If they have accrued vacation, then the employer must pay that at the time of termination. It never goes away. It's in a wage. That's California. I don't think all states treat it that way, but California does. But if you have what they call a PTO, a paid time off policy, and usually those are pretty broad and they include sick time off as well, then that's where they meld, because you're saying you can use this for any reason, for vacation, sick leave, for personal time, whatever. And California now says, well, if you do that, then your sick time is melded in to your vacation time, and it all becomes a wage. So if you said, hey, you can't use your PTO for sick leave, and you have a separate sick leave policy, and you reduce the number of hours in the PTO because of the sick leave is different and then gives you sick leave hours. So let's say, all right, here's a better way to explain it. If you have 2 weeks of PTO, and in San Diego you have to give 5 days of sick leave per year as a minimum. So that would be, and if you just have this PTO, that's all wage. If you go, well, I'm going to give you 1 week vacation and 5 days of sick leave, which is equivalent to a week, it's the work week, it's usually the week, then only half of that is a wage that must be paid at some point. Does that make that clear?
We're just looking
I need a cocktail. So this is interesting. So it really is about making sure you are clear when you negotiate this. You really need, when you are getting hired, so at times your sick leave can become vacation leave, and then because now it's become vacation leave, then it changes that it can have money
to a wage.
It becomes the PTO sounds like a car. So then, but then
paid time off.
Yeah. Yes. It's.
Yeah,
wow.
and actually it's pretty common. There are many employers. Usually it's a larger employer has a paid time off policy, and so you can use your leave time for any reason, including sick time. But now that's all a wage. If you separate it out and have two different policies, and it has nothing to really do with negotiation. I mean, you keep talking about negotiation. These are policies that the employer puts in place. Now, I suppose maybe a CEO or someone with some negotiating power comes in and says, hey, you have to treat me a little differently. I don't want a separate sick leave. I want it all as PTO. That's my thing. I suppose there's some people out there that can negotiate that, but generally not. It's a policy that the employer puts in place, and it applies to everyone.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. An employer has a choice. They can go, well, let's just call it all PTO, and we'll put all those 2 weeks in the PTO box, and that's a wage, and I have to pay it out at some point. Or let's break out 1 week for just sick leave and have 1 week as vacation rather than combining the 2 weeks. And then only the vacation is a wage that has to be paid out at some point, whether it's true vacation or at the time of termination or the time they quit. The sick leave does not have to be paid out. If it's not used, it could potentially roll over, but in some of the elections that employers would use, it would just go away.
Wow. So then so you need to claim it.
So
I think that an employer probably shouldn't do a PTO if they're trying to save themselves money.
Okay. So
but then you said that in California you don't have to give employees a vacation. So you
don't have to.
You have to give them sick leave. So I suppose if you didn't get sick, you could take your sick leave and you pretend you're sick and go on vacation, unless you get caught.
Well, yeah, I mean, the law doesn't allow you to use sick leave for vacation, but if, can you get away with that? Well, probably. But if you get caught, you certainly can get terminated for violating the policy.
Wow.
And you're right. California requires sick leave. All employers, with very few exceptions, must offer sick leave. And in the state level, it's at least 3 days, and it can be more depending on some elections, of sick leave per year. In San Diego has its own sick leave law that expands that to 5 days per year, minimum. It can be more.
Go San Diego.
So I just the idea of not giving employees a vacation at all kind of is disturbing.
Like nothing.
To me.
Like zip, nothing.
Nada.
It's not required. Now, many employers. Now, it's unfair to say, well, no employer gives it. Well, yes, and there are many employers who do give it. Generally, though, they're larger businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Mom and pop stores generally don't give vacation, paid vacation.
Yeah, paid vacation versus, actual vacation. Is it legal? Okay, so paid vacation is not required, but what about unpaid vacation?
Well, that's a scheduling thing, and so an employer can say, hey, your schedule is 52 weeks a year. They can say that. Now, how many people are going to work for that employer for very long? Probably not. So it's not I guess the bottom line is an employer could do it, but I know of no business that I've ever run into in San Diego and actually had a conversation about these types of things where you weren't allowed to say, hey, I need a week here or I need, maybe even a month off. They go, I just need some time off. And most employers are going to work with you on that.
What about if it's sick leave? Like, say you're being a hypochondriac and you really didn't need to go to the doctor. You just didn't want to go to work that day, so you thought a doctor's office would be more fun. Does the employer get to say, no, you can't go at this time? You can't go to the doctor, or that's really not that sick or something like that. Can they start making decisions on when you can use your sick leave?
Well, there are limitations. I mean, you really need to use it for a medical condition that you have, or it can be preventive too, for preventive care. So you're going and getting shots, things like that. Or a condition or preventive care for your family. And family is pretty broad. It includes grandparents and grandchildren. It's big. So That's I mean, and if you use it for any other reason, it's going to fall out. Now, I shouldn't say that. It's broadened, actually. You're allowed to use it for taking care of, if you're being stalked, for instance.
Oh, wow.
You can,
yeah,
you can
right,
use sick leave for that.
Yeah.
Domestic violence, going to court, getting away from someone who's harming you, you can use it for that. So there are more uses for it than just being sick, but there are limited uses. You can't use it for a vacation. If you do, you violate the policy, and your employer can terminate you.
Now, can the employer decide, like, this is a sick leave day or it's really a vacation day?
Yeah, like if you want to go to the spa.
Okay. Well, no. If you're going to the spa, no, you can't do that. That's not going to be. I mean, maybe you call that some type of preventative care, but boy.
Yeah, of course it is. I feel good.
Maybe. Now, okay. Maybe so. Well, especially if you have a condition, I would say, and it's going to help the condition. I would say, you probably can use it for that.
Or you're going to have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
It would depend. But the sick leave law in California says that an employee can determine the amount, at least the amount that they can use. They can't always determine the reason for its use, meaning they can't take vacation with it. There are limitations.
So you can't go to the spa every Wednesday afternoon and call it being sick.
No. That's not going to work. Now, maybe your employer never figures it out and you're fine, but I think if you're taking a weekly vacation, that's going to be a big problem, probably.
Okay, so now if you're boss with Harvey Weinstein, could you take sick leave?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, that may get into the hostile work or the stalking and the other things.
Yeah.
You might be able to actually use it for that.
They should come up with a new form of vacation time called the
stalker's package.
The HW time that you can take in case you're working for one of those. I had to say that, and but yeah. So this is interesting what you can do with your sick time, but. The paid vacation thing. So really.
Let me make one more comment on the use of it. The employee's ability to use it. They can, like I said, the employee can determine how much they should use. Within the amount that they have accrued. The employer can say, well, you got to use minimum increments of no more than 2 hours. So they can't say you got to use a full day. But they can say if you use sick leave, you have to use it in 2 hour increments or less. You could do an hour if you want. And I've had employers call me and say, hey, I'm not really liking what I'm seeing. And I'll go, and it depends on the situation, but often I will say, do you really want to have that fight? I could see how they might make you look bad if you call them out on it, and you just got to decide whether that's a big enough issue to do it. And you're talking about a few hours here, so I'm not sure that's the best business decision. I'm sorry your hands are tied a little bit here, or there's some risk, maybe not tied, but there's some risk to you. But there is risk. So calling out people for the use of sick leave, you really, as an employer, need to be on all fours on it. I mean, have a picture of them at Disneyland. All right, you got them. But if it's, if they don't seem very sick and they're kind of hanging out at home, are you really gonna win that one? I don't know. I'd be careful.
Yeah, we're in adult land now. I mean, it's like when you got, caught skipping school.
Yeah.
So that was,
similar.
I got busted by teachers hitchhiking down to the beach.
Yeah,
that was
Lisa.
not cool. And
yeah,
I was like,
Lisa.
why was the teacher out of school? And nobody said anything. It was pretty cool. But anyway.
Well, I'm wondering what your mom was doing about all that.
She found me at my friend's house and called and said, what the principal's like about two single women who are single moms, and just said, "You made me look like a terrible single mother." She did a complete guilt trip. It was terrible.
Ooh.
But it was a good one. It was a good one.
Well, it was true.
And so all my friends, I mean, it was I was in trouble.
Way to go,
man.
Nancy.
I know. She's all like, "You can't make me look like that." And
Yeah.
And, and I got busted at my friend's house. Their parents were giggling. They were laughing. They were laughing hard about that. That was yep.
Yeah. Did you ever figure out how I figured out where you were?
Because of other people or the teachers or what? I don't know.
Because the parents told me.
Oh, duh. Yeah. We used to board this when I was in high school. Like all my friends, we'd walk to school. This was the last year.
God,
and
almighty.
We used to walk through the sprinklers, so we'd get our uniforms because we had to wear uniforms in South Africa, and our uniforms would get wet, and so we'd tell our parents, well, we don't have any dry uniforms, we can't go to school because we've got wet uniforms. Do you think that worked?
No. For sick leave?
And not for sick leave, not to go back to school. Like, just we had to go to school,
Yeah, it doesn't work for any reason.
Oh, man.
So funny.
Crazy times. But, all right, so for you, when do people come knocking on your door as an attorney when it comes to vacation leave and sick leave? I mean, it's got to be, you got to look at when is it really worth it as a case, right? So what happens when like an employer calls you, is like they didn't do something, or, what's the most common issue?
The calls I've had about sick leave are, I don't like how my employee's using it. Is there something I can do about it? Mm-hmm. And like I said, I'm pretty cautious about that. And it's going to depend on the story I hear as to whether I, say, hey, you got some risk here or you don't. And it's normally about controlling your risk and whether you have any risk or not. And then the employer decides what they want to do. Vacation's a little different. I don't get too many calls from employers about vacation. I mean, if they allow for vacation, they should have a good vacation policy, and if they just follow it, they're in pretty good shape. Sometimes I've helped create them before when someone's trying to institute one, but I do get more calls about people who have employees who've been terminated, and they're saying, "Hey, I didn't get all my vacation paid to me when I was terminated." And I go, "Well, if that's true, that's a violation of the law." And then what you get into is not only trying to recoup the vacation that was owed, but also what we call waiting time penalties in California, which means if you don't pay all wages owed at the time of termination or within 3 days of the time an employee quits, then you have to pay a penalty as an employer, and it's a day's wage for every day that the wages go unpaid up to 30 days.
Whoa.
So often what you'll see is now it's got to be willful too. So if an employer just makes a mistake, they're probably okay. But it can cause big problems. It can cause them a lot of money to defend, et cetera. But if it's like pretty obvious that they should have paid it and they just didn't, now they got a bigger problem. And you'll see, 30 days goes by fast after you terminate someone. You don't even want to talk to them anymore. So it goes by, and all of a sudden there's a month's of wage, more than a month. Yeah. It's really 6 weeks of wages that are owed.
Wow.
So that's what I see that with vacation more than anything else, really.
So when somebody gets fired or quits and they're owed vacation time, and the company doesn't pay, you said they get fined. Does that fine, the money for the fine, where does that go to the person?
Yes, it does. There are two kinds of fines in California. No, that one doesn't. Oh. If it's a civil penalty, that goes to the government. If it's a statutory penalty, that goes. There's weird definitions for both. I'm not even going to get into it. Anyway, there's two kinds of penalties. One goes to the state. One goes to the employee. And in this case, that waiting time penalty goes to the employee.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I'm trying to think back if I ever got all my vacation.
I know. I'm wondering about that.
Well, your statute of limitations probably ran, but
yeah.
Do you want to talk off air?
I know, really. Let's see.
that's like 40 years later.
I know. That's
a lot of wages.
Yeah, I mean, but you work for some pretty big companies, and so the bigger companies, they really can't afford that if they're terminating a lot of people. And also, it doesn't matter if it's terminated or someone quit. That wouldn't make a difference. Like if, you know.
Well, only in the time when wages are owed. If you quit, if you go, hey, today's my last day, and you go, then the employer has 3 days to pay you the wages. If you terminate, you have to pay them the same day, and that's the only difference.
Oh.
Wow. Now wait a minute.
Now what happens if it's you know, when companies they kind of just put you all on hold, or you're not like fired, you're just kind of let go because of financial issues or whatever. You know, they've downsized, and you know, all of a sudden, you know, Sam's Club doesn't have employees anymore, or whatever that was.
Oh, you mean Amazon?
Or I don't know. Yeah, all of a sudden, hello, we're making a lot of money, and so you don't get to be hired anymore. What happens with that? Does that make a difference because it's not fired or quit, or is it considered?
Well, no,
fired?
that's a firing. That's a termination by the employer. And you raise other issues too. If it's a mass layoff, then you got to follow the WARN Act rules, and there's a California WARN Act that parallels the federal one. So if you don't give enough notice, then you can end up owing 60 days worth of wages.
Wow.
That's the maximum. You know, if it's a large, you know, very large layoff. So, you know, slightly different if it's a large layoff, but whether it's a layoff or whatever, that's still a termination. And so,
okay, so
if you look at 10 people, no, that's not a mass layoff, and you go, you guys are gone, pack up your stuff and go, you have to pay them their wages right then, everything owed.
Wow. That's how you get that little pink slip.
So what happens if people are doing, like, they're working with one of those labor union things, and they're like, hey, this sucks, they're not paying us enough, and we're going to march and do this, and then if they don't raise our pay, we're all just going to walk off, and that's it. So if they're going, if they're working with a union, does the union start to get involved with something like that, or are they on their own, and you still need to try and get your vacation time, and it's a group walk-off?
Wow.
Wow, you know, that when you put it in here's what I was going to say, and then you brought up the vacation time thing, that made me think, and I haven't actually faced that issue, but let me kind of analyze it a little bit here. A union walk-off, so a bunch of people just walk off.
Yeah.
Now, do you have to pay them all wages owed within 3 days? I would say generally that sounds like they quit for an indeterminate amount of time, and you might just say, hey, you can't come back. So I would generally say, yeah, within 3 days you have to pay them all wages owed. And certainly, you know, they have in the process that they, you know, send out a paycheck for the time they actually had work, things like that. Now, what I don't know is union rules sometimes trump the statutes, and I don't know in that situation if this is one of them, where the union rules may say, well, yeah, in this situation you don't have to pay out vacation because, you know, we're planning on coming back and we're just walking off to get more, you know, higher wage rate. I don't know that. But if that isn't in effect, then I would say that there could be a problem with the accrued vacation. And the other thing about unions, though, is unions' dues will, you know, to a limited degree, pay people for not working. That's one reason why they pay dues, so that you can get some type of compensation. And of course, well, if you walk off, that could be a quitting, and then you might not be allowed to get unemployment, for instance. So there may be some other government programs that you can get some money from, but boy, if you quit, it's not always denied you, but and we did a show on this too, I think. But it very often it's denied you if you quit. So I'm not sure you could get unemployment under those circumstances. In fact, I'm pretty sure you couldn't.
Do a lot of people
but you know, the union
join
situation
the
is interesting
for that? I mean, I know that it's important for certain things. I know musicians we worked with. I'll never forget this drummer walks in. He's like, "I'm with a union. You need to pay me gas money." I'm like, "Oh, get a grip." But he's like, "Well, I'm with a union." Okay, so I'm like, "Okay, whatever." Like, good for you. And so I know that they're important for a lot of different reasons. But do a lot of people, are they going to go and join a march if they're getting compensated? Do they get compensated if they say, "Okay, we're not going to work. We're going to go on strike for a few days"? Are the unions paying them, and so they go, "Hey, let's go do this instead of going to work"?
Well, yeah, I mean,
I'm going to get in trouble now for saying this.
Yeah, well, no, unions, that's one reason why you pay unions to do this is to tie you over during times like that. And that's going to, and how much you get and potentially whether you get it at all would depend on what the union agreement says. And so, and I was talking about the union agreement trumping state laws. There are, a bunch of laws where it says, well, if union agreements don't apply to this section if they meet these minimum requirements. And so union agreements can displace the law under certain circumstances.
Wow.
And that, in that case it might be happening.
Now, do you end up in union situations? Do you ever end up having to talk to the head dude at the union or the head lady?
No, I have not worked for a union. I've had union issues brought up every once in a while, but that's not my area of practice. That's more of a specialty.
Okay.
And so, I'm not one who does union negotiations, but sometimes union issues do come up, and I talk to people about them. And you always got to go back to the agreement. You have to go back to the agreement.
That's what everything isn't. That's why I'm saying this whole thing about your paid time off and vacation time and all that is something you should be very clear on when you get hired during that process.
It should be in writing.
Yeah, have that in writing somewhere, so that if you've got some backup, right?
It should be a written policy, and normally it will be in the handbook, and you will get the policy in there. And if it, the policy may not have any vacation, the handbook may not have any vacation policy in it, and then I would say, well, that means you don't get vacation. It may say, well, we don't give paid vacation here, but you can have time off if you talk to the manager in enough, advanced enough so that we can accommodate your schedule. I've seen things like that.
When you give an employee paid vacation, as the employer, is it your right to say when the person can take vacation? Yeah, scheduling to a real large degree, scheduling is in the total control of the employer. They don't have to give paid time off at all. They don't have to give unpaid time off. They can say, "I need you to work," and if you don't, then they can say, "Well, you're gone." In California, now that's not true. I don't think that's true in all states, but my practice is in California, so. Yeah, the employer has great control over the schedule. Now, but as a practical matter, employers know that no one can work all the time. I mean, you just get stale, you get, So even employers who don't have vacation policies will give, I can't think of an employer I've ever worked with who didn't give unpaid time off. Of course they do. It seems to me that, larger companies, everything's in writing and it's pretty standard operation. But when you're looking at the mom and pop things, I think that's where it gets really casual. And we've seen so many of those kind of employers that are very casual with, their agreements, and and it's sometimes you feel like they're not even keeping track of what they're doing. Like they'll why don't you just take the afternoon off or something like that, and then I think they're just not as careful sometimes.
Yeah, and that can lead to problems. I have clients and have had clients who run a more casual type of work atmosphere, and that works really well for them. It's a good give and take for the employees and the employer. I usually warn them to go, well, when you do that, though, and the employee later says, I don't like you, then that can be a big problem after they leave. So, I understand why you're doing it. I understand the business decision behind it. It works well for you and them. Everyone likes it. But when you have a problem with an employee, that's when it comes back and gets you. Yeah. And you see that more with smaller employers than you do with the larger employers. So you're right. That can lead to problems. Wow. But I get it. Employees really, they do like the flexibility that many of the smaller businesses will give them. Because you have a personal relationship. It's not a big structure, so you can just get more flexibility, and so a lot of people like that. It just I do tell employers, I say, I know it's never been a problem for 20 years. I'm just saying I've seen enough to know that that it may be a problem at some point, and you just have to understand that. And that doesn't mean don't run your business the way you are because it's worked so well, but just understand that there is a risk, and if you get on the wrong side of the wrong employee, that can be a problem.
See, this is true. This is the drama. It's always about that drama that can happen inside that office.
And you never know when.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. So, Ward, thank you for your article on this and for clearing up the mysteries around paid sick leave or your PTO, your paid time off. That's a special little car that everybody wants to drive. And also, sick leave and also vacation time. And everyone, again, you can go read Ward's article right now if you go to nationalparktraveling.com, since it deals with vacation time. And you want to get as much paid vacation time as you can.
That's right.
You go for it. Ward, do you help people with that when they're getting hired? Like, here's my lawyer's letter saying you will give me a full month of paid vacation.
I've never negotiated a contract. Well, no, I have. Normally it's an independent contractor agreement, but usually that I only get involved at the back end when things are falling apart. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think if I represented an employer or an employee who wanted to get the best deal from an employer. I don't think I have. And, normally they don't want to do that because now the employer's thinking, this guy's a problem.
Yeah, here it is. That's that sign.
At the beginning, It's
like, no, you can't play all your cards at once. You have to, nickel and dime it for your vacation time. Just sneak it in there. Get it. But go for it as best as you can.
Yeah, you can negotiate for it, though. Sure you can.
Yeah, why not? Why not? And make sure you have an inclusion writer, anybody in the film industry.
Oh, boy.
I'm just going to say that when you're negotiating. All right, so everyone, bestemploymentattorney.sandiego.com is a place to go to connect with Ward, read his blogs, listen to his podcast. And, Ward, we're going to play a special song for you today.
Oh, good.
And I believe we've played it before, but it is a perfect song for today. It's called Work. It's off of the album Olives and Oil from The Joiners. It's out on Bandcamp, everyone. It's like the album's been out for a while. This was the first album they came on our show with years ago. And this song, it's all about I don't want to go to work. I want my vacation time. Maybe my sick leave at the spa. All right, so here it is, everyone. Don't forget, you can keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. We are daily now with shorter shows, and you can see the full list there. And we're on Twitter at Big Blend Mag and Facebook under Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine. Thanks so much, Ward.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Take care. We'll talk to you next month. Here it is, everyone. Work, or I don't want to.
I don't want to go to work, working for a man who just treats me like a jerk, and he doesn't even know my name. Next time he asks me, I'll swear it's pudding take. But I don't want to go to jail. It stinks what I breathe in, and there's no room to exhale. Won't somebody go my bail? 'Cause I don't want to go to jail. Now please release me from this grip I never signed. Enough of this. Now please release me from this hold. Let me grow old. Let me grow old. And I don't want to go to war. And I ain't much for shooting, that ain't what I'm aiming for. And all my soldier friends are poor, fighting rich man's war. And I don't want to go outside. It's so scary on TV, and television never lies. Everything it sells I buy, and I don't want to go outside. Now please release me from this grip. I'd never sign up for this. Now please release me from this hole. Let me grow old. Let me grow old. The bells are ringing noon where we are. Put your hammers down. The church is on the hill where we are, singing to the town. No matter your uniform, no matter your rank, stop where you are. It's time to take a break.